Hello, welcome to the THC show. This is the show where we talk about truth, hope, and change, three very important things in our world if we're going to be able to continue to function as we should as a society, and hopefully we can cover some of that today. On the show today we'll have 8 out of 10 Glenn from CannaMatch.ca. He'll join us for the 420 session as always. Jerry Martin will be here along with one of his co-applicants, Pat Warnecke, to talk about their journey coming up through the courts now to try to find dignified, low-barrier access for people with medical needs through cannabis storefronts. Here I see that in Canada, Health Canada is talking about clamping down on people that are growing for themselves. There's 420,000 people in Canada that are qualified to use cannabis for medical purposes. There's about 10% of those that are growing for themselves. And Health Canada is concerned about diversion of product that might be happening, and all of that simply to try to protect the interests of their monopoly on selling cannabis to people. So they're concerned about people growing too much and cutting into the marketplace with their excess. But there's a lot of expense going on in doing something like that. To use our police and tax dollars to try to combat something like that is very cost prohibitive, and the returns might be good for the people that have invested in trying to sell pot through the government monopoly, but the returns to us as taxpayers is pretty much nil, and the reason for it is much more disturbing, of course, because they're using our police resources to try to clamp down on people growing plants that they might be trying to make a few extra dollars with, or sharing with some of their friends and neighbors who might need some. And there's no victim here. We don't have a situation in Canada where anybody's being harmed by any of that, except for the bottom line profits for those people that are involved in this government attempted monopoly of the cannabis marketplace. So it's really, really disgusting that that's going on. And it's all part of why we're having the problems that we're having here. So what we're talking about in that is that this show has been dedicated for the last 9 months pretty much to the quest for a low barrier access community cannabis store. That's what we've been trying to achieve because that's what we need here. We've been providing cannabis, low barrier, high dose edibles for over 4 years with the Cannabis Substitution Program. And that's what resulted in the government in British Columbia, well, here in Vancouver, passing a motion to support and allow for low barrier access, because we demonstrated quite clearly, and the evidence was very, very clear, studies done by Dr. M.J. Malloy and others, that it's very effective, especially high-dose edibles, to get people through the withdrawal stages of the opioid and other street drug addictions that they have, and then to replace those substances to deal with their issues of pain or depression or the other things that drive the need for drugs in the first place. So we've proved that it's effective. We've got the city councillors on board. We've got Dr. M.J. Malloy, a big ally of ours, and well over 50 papers released talking about the effectiveness of our program and cannabis in general. We've got all of the local harm reduction groups that are on our side that have written us supporting letters. And all of that is part of what we're doing here, and yet we can't seem to get the federal government to act in a timely manner to allow us to continue what we've been demonstrating for all of this time is effective in saving people's lives, rescuing them from addiction, and meeting the needs of this community with respect to all of the drivers of addiction, like depression and lack of sleep and anxiety and pain, and so many things that cause people to go to those substances, to get put on those substances in most cases by healthcare professionals who prescribe opioids like as if they were candy to people. And whenever you've got any serious pain of any sort, well, that's what you're going to be put on. And then so that results in this problem we have of too many people on opioids, and then too many people doing too many opioids, and then too many people misusing opioids. And so now the doctors are under great pressure to not only continue to prescribe opioids, because that's just what they do, but also to not let people stay on them and to continue to use them, even when they continue to need them. And so there's a lot of people that are not able to stop on the doctor's regimen. They're not able to stop because they're still in need. And so when they're no longer able to get it through their doctor, then they get it through friends and family, then they get it through other places, and they, in many cases, spiral down into poverty, and they end up down in the downtown east side and finding their source of supply on the street corners. So this is a situation that's been going on for a long time now. This has been declared an epidemic. This is a healthcare emergency, and we've got so many people have already died, like thousands every year. 5.3 people in British Columbia every day are dying from this overdose epidemic. And so it is a real serious problem. It's been driven by government policy and by policies of the Medical Association here in Canada and other places around the world. And that's the only block that we're having in getting what we're supposed to be doing here. As I mentioned, we've been demonstrating for 4 years the effectiveness of providing low barrier access to cannabis, especially in the form of high-dose edibles. And with the government of Vancouver here passing this motion, we opened a store after meeting with them and coming to an understanding that we would find a storefront and we'd start providing low barrier access that included low-cost cannabis along with the no-cost cannabis that we'd been doing for 3.5 years. So we did find, after about a year of searching, we did find a storefront that was suitable. And this is it. I'm broadcasting to you right now from that building. Although it's no longer the store that we had for 4.5 months, and now it's just being used as our shop and our offices. And we've been forced to continue our operation outside on the curbside in an RV, simply because of this government corruption that's causing the federal government not to want to give us permission to do what we've been demonstrating is the right thing to do. And it is really, really disgusting because there's many people's lives at stake here. I think that, we tried very hard to do everything right here. I mean, we have lawyers on our side, and we provided an application to Health Canada to approve our selling of cannabis at low cost and providing it at no cost. And yet that application, even though it was marked emergency because we were facing eviction and we needed to have Health Canada give us at least a ministerial exemption to allow us to stay in the store, that didn't happen. That's now over 6 months ago now. We still don't even have the ministerial exemption, let alone the licenses. We have had communication with Health Canada. They've been pondering our application for over 6 months now. They met with us via telephone, or my lawyer and myself, before Christmas. They apologized that it had taken over 3 months at that time, and said that they were working on it, but because of COVID and the holidays, that it probably would take into early January before they would have something for us so that we could move back into the store. But early January came and went, and early February came and went, and early March has now come and gone. And they did communicate with us again just 2 weeks ago from tomorrow. I got an email from Health Canada saying that they did appreciate our regular submissions, which our lawyer is doing to remind them that we're out in an RV on the curbside rather than in the store, but also to send them the studies as they come up day after day that prove the efficacy of cannabis as a replacement for opioids and other street drugs. And so they thanked us for that, said that their team was working diligently on that, and that they were still having conversations with the different stakeholders, probably more like shareholders, and that hopefully they would have it done fairly quickly. Well, that's 2 weeks ago now again, and although that means we're 2 weeks closer to getting it, it still hasn't been forthcoming. So, the whole thing, like I said, is not about anything to do with Health Canada being concerned that providing cannabis in a low barrier manner is going to cause any problems for any of the people that are accessing cannabis. The whole issue is about how to structure what we're doing in with the structure of the sale of non-medical cannabis by government licensed stores. And that's what's so disgusting about all of this, is that we're here to try to actually impact people's lives and to save them and to rescue them from addiction and to provide what this community needs in the way of healing through cannabis as a harm reduction tool. And it's a wonderful thing that we've been doing here for all of this time, and we're still doing today. And yet we can't get the government to allow us to do that. And without their allowance to do that, we met with some enforcement by the VPD that has since backed off, while they probably are still waiting for Health Canada like we are. We're never quite sure what the VPD are doing. Police don't really tell you what's going on. But we do appreciate their patience. It's been 2.5 months or more since we've had any contact with them, and they know exactly what we're doing. We're right kitty corner from the police station, and we're in an RV that they've already raided and came and talked to us a couple of times at. And so they're very aware of what we're doing and that we're here doing it. And they're just, so far, not enforcing Canada's laws against us as we wait for a positive decision from Health Canada. But, I mean, the reason we don't get a positive reaction from Health Canada is simply because this is all part of the Trudeau, scam, the cartel scam to keep prices high and even higher than they were during Prohibition, because the people are willing to pay high prices for cannabis because it's very valuable. But all it is a pay your fine upfront scam. That's what this is. I mean, we're all paying, if you're going to the government store, I don't say we all, because I certainly aren't, and none of my friends are, but for those of you who are going and purchasing your cannabis at the government store, I mean, do you get the pricing that's going on here? Do you get how unreasonable all of this is? I mean, cannabis is just a plant. It grows just like every other plant, except maybe it produces a little more biomass per cubic meter than any other plant would produce. It grows quite tall and numerous buds, and all of the biomass is usable, and even the leaves have lots of cannabinoids on them. So it's a very valuable plant in what it produces with respect to how people use it. But with what it actually takes to bring to market, it's really no different than blueberries or raspberries or cherries or strawberries or any of those other things that farmers devote their land and time to and bring to market, get paid pennies on the pound for these things, and are still able to pay their mortgages and feed their families. I mean, if you talk to somebody who understands cannabis and you say, hey, I've got a really good ounce for $5, like they'd be like, wow, holy smokes, $5 for an ounce. Well, that's $80 a pound. $80 a pound. I mean, we buy all the best fruits and vegetables that we want in the marketplace, and the best organic stuff is seldom over $5 a pound. I mean, none of us would pay $10 a pound for blueberries or any of these other things that are exotic and beautiful and lovely, and we like them. And sure, maybe blueberries, although they're antioxidants, and I'm sure there's lots of vitamins, and they do lots of good for people, I'm sure that the people derive more benefit out of cannabis, but just because you derive more benefit out of something doesn't mean that the cost to bring it to market is any more. So therefore the price shouldn't be any more, unless there was a problem with the supply, unless it's a really hard plant to grow or something like that. But it's not. So the only reason that the price of cannabis is higher than your local blueberries and strawberries is because of government policy, and that's it. I mean, before it was legal, government policy dictated that you could go to jail for trying to sell this stuff or grow this stuff, or you could lose your property. And so people would sell it, but there was that risk-benefit analysis going on, and so it became like $10 a gram, which is outrageous for anything that was legal, of course, but as an illegal commodity that has great value to people were willing to pay that, and so that's what the marketplace was for most of that time. But then came legalization. Well, that was supposed to do two really profound things for us. It was supposed to stop the waste of our tax dollars on going after people growing plants and selling plants and using plants, because that was a huge waste to us. More police resources and money was devoted to trying to stop people from getting and using cannabis than for any other crime that was going on in our society. And I use the term crime very lightly and loosely, because really it's not a crime at all. But it was supposed to stop all of that wasted tax dollars and police resources. And the other thing it was supposed to do was bring the price down to what would be reasonable for just a plant that people can now grow legally. And if the government wasn't involved in making sure that you had to have all these licenses in place and all these regulations in place and only so many people could do it and blah, 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 well, then the price would come down to what it should be reasonably for things that people grow and provide to each other. The marketplace would determine all of that. And sure, there's lots of room, I'm sure, for connoisseurs and people that want to provide high quality cannabis to go and spend a bunch of money on lights and dehumidifying equipment and get the very best of everything and produce these really beautiful crystally buds. And that's fine. And that's great. And charge whatever you want. And whatever the marketplace will bear, well, that's all great. But on the other side of it, it's just a plant that people should also be able to access in that non-connoisseur fashion. Just chop your branches up into 1 foot long stalks and tie them together and package them and put them on the grocery store shelf at $20 a pound. They're going to fly off the shelves. But realistically, that's about what it should cost. And even that, most farmers would be growing that instead of other things. If farmers could just grow whatever they want, and they could grow cannabis if they wanted to, and the marketplace is that cannabis will fetch you so much more money than anything else, then who would grow anything else? Who would be growing any blueberries or strawberries? Everybody, every farmer would turn their property and their land into producing this crop that's going to get them $1,000 for a pound, as opposed to pennies on the pound, or in some cases dollars on the ton. So that marketplace would find its level. That would all level out. And we don't need government interference in all of that. We need the government to get out of this and leave people alone. We had a whole bunch of dispensaries that were medical dispensaries that were looking after the people who needed it, that we won in the courts time and time again. We won through the courts that we had the right to reasonable access to cannabis, especially if we're sick. The sick people, they need reasonable access. So we, the people, did that without the government for a long time and opened dispensaries all over the place. There's 180 of them here in Vancouver at its heyday. Unregulated, unlicensed, but yet they weren't unregulated because they were self-regulating. They were regulated by the marketplace. They were regulated by the people that attended there and by what the communities needed of them. That's where the regulations came in, and there was no problems with any of it. 4:19, so you got 1 minute to roll them, and I got one more minute to wrap this up. And it's a lot to wrap up. It really is. But seriously, it's a big story that the government has come along and continued prohibition and called it legalization and continue to let all of the people who have made money on prohibiting cannabis continue to make money because it's still prohibited for anybody who's outside of the government system. And this is racketeering. This is running a protection racket. This is corruption to the max, and it runs right to the top of our government. And if anything else, whatever this is a really good way for us as people to have a good look at just how corrupt our government is, and just who it is that they're working for, and just who it is that seems to be controlling us, and what we're able to purchase, and how we're able to produce things. Because I'll tell you, we are far from free. And if you want to look at the whole cannabis file, there's no more blatant example of that we are far from free as human beings, and it's costing us a lot in our society. So there you go, 420 is hit, and as always, I'd like to welcome 8 out of 10 Glenn from CannaMatch.ca to join me for the 420 session. How you doing, sir?
Good, how are you today,
Just fine, Glenn.
How are you?
Well, another week comes and goes, eh?
I hear the headaches are getting better.
Oh, man.
Whoa, that's good. That's good. That's like good news. Like being good news at 420, right?
This is my 4th day without having a migraine.
Nice.
After 3 days straight of having a migraine.
Nice.
And I hate that. It's been going on for a long time with me. But it's, I don't know. If it was a daily thing that was there every day, then I'd certainly be in the emergency getting them to have a look at me, you know, that there was some pressure on my brain somewhere, there's a tumor or something growing, I don't know what. But I really think, and because of how I try to analyze what it is that's going on with me, I really think it is stress. My diet's pretty good.
Yeah.
But it's been a really tough year and a half for sure, with a lot of people close to me passing away for a variety of different reasons, and that's really tough for me to take. But there's been a lot of people that have passed that I'm really close to. This fighting with the government, it really drives me nuts.
It drives me crazy,
I mean, every time I start to think
a dead
about
horse. Right.
It's like bashing your head against a wall that hasn't moved for all the 20-some years I've been trying, and it has moved a little bit, and thinking we can still win. But I do think we can still win. I do think that right is going to win out, and that there's enough good people that are working towards that from enough different angles.
But they say it always wins eventually, right? Truth gets out there eventually.
I don't know if that's all true or not. But,
we'll see.
I'm an optimist, so I have to be careful of my own bias. But I'm also, I like to think I'm a realist. I like to think I'm a pretty good analyst at some things. From a layperson's point of view, I'd have no doctorates in anything.
Yeah.
But and maybe that's where the headaches come from, is because it just makes no sense, right? It just makes no sense.
that here we are this far into telling the truth about cannabis and exposing. I mean, it's ludicrous.
Yeah.
I'm sure people have watched the show before. I've expressed just how ludicrous it is when there's no crime involved and they call it a crime.
No.
And they spend most of our money for police on trying to eradicate something that is of benefit to people and not causing any problems anywhere. And we know all of this now.
Yeah.
I mean, for a long time, the media had everybody convinced that this stuff was just the devil's weed, man, and it was causing great addiction.
Devil's lettuce.
And, it was causing all kinds of violence. And the original reasons that they gave for needing to prohibit this were because, oh my God, this stuff was just going to be the most horrible scourge on humanity.
Crime and kill people and rob banks and do all kinds of stuff.
And rape.
Right? Yeah,
There's
and
a lot
rape.
of,
Rape
was
in there
there's
too.
a lot of rape references in there back in those days.
You know, when
talking
you were
about
stoned,
cannabis,
you're not thinking about raping anybody. You want to make love to somebody.
White girls who would get so high they wouldn't even realize they were doing it with black guys. There was a lot of racism back in it as well.
Yeah.
There was all these different things that play. I mean, they pulled the race card, they pulled the rape card, they pulled the crime card.
They're going to scare people.
You're going to lose your children. It's all about the youth,
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah, family services is going to come in and take your kids who use pot, right?
And then that turned around in the 60s.
Yeah.
When they had the Dane Commission here in Canada. They had the Schaefer report came out in the States about the same time. And they concluded that, well, cannabis doesn't induce violence at all. In fact, it makes you a little bit calm and relaxed, hungry in some cases.
Exactly.
And so they turned that all around, and they said, well, now cannabis is making people lazy and it's, willing to join the Communist Party. There was a lot of that going on back there in the 60s, fear of communism, and this was a communist plot to allow our young people to be brainwashed and to be lazy.
Yeah.
And so, and then you fast forward to, 2005. I've referenced it before, where Daryl Plekas, on behalf of the RCMP, is debating against Norm Stamper, the former police chief of the Seattle Police Department. He's a LEAP member. He's converted. He understands the problems of prohibition and the lack of problems with marijuana. And they're debating each other. And, it comes up about, well, hey, it's looking like cannabis is actually medicine in a lot of different ways. And it's, helps people with different things.
We know that.
And I'll never forget Daryl Plekas standing there and saying, well, hey, let's not jump to any conclusions. The jury is still out on this. It's probably all just a big myth.
That's Daryl for you.
But he conceded that, if cannabis turned out to be of medicinal value like they were suspecting it was in 2005, we're going back 16 years now, then we would have to really rethink any criminal sanctions against it, right?
Yeah.
And here we are all these years later, and there's still it's legal to access and to carry with you, but only if you got it through legal sources, and all of the illegal sources. Well, that's a legal source. That's what I mean.
Okay,
but all the illegal sources of that you might have got it from will still get you and other people in trouble. And
but you can't really tell the difference between illegal source or growing yourself, because it was grown in someone's home, so it all looks the same anyways. Right? It's not like water dropped or little watermark that this was grown in a legal spot and this was grown in an illegal home, right? So
they're not going to win.
That's going to
they're not going to win because of these things. We can overgrow them. There's enough loopholes in that for that. Like you say, they can't prove where that cannabis came that you got from, and you're allowed to grow some that doesn't come from a government store. And if you're a medical user, and you can be gifted from people as well. So, they don't have that, but they would love to stop that.
Yes.
They were not happy about allowing people for plants, or to grow at all. Some provinces don't allow that still, and they're being challenged on that. And they would also like to really clamp down on the medical users and how much they're able to divert and how that works as well. They're going to try to close all these loopholes with their monopoly. They're still going to try. They're trying to flood the market with their stores right now and get enough of the consumer base that are using that they can maybe succeed like that. They don't really care about the quality of their cannabis yet and their reputation for selling good cannabis reasonably. They don't care about that. Their main focus, first off, is to crush the activist community and to crush the cannabis community that's providing cannabis for people.
And providing healthy cannabis.
And then they've got a good business plan of saying, hey, well, now we're going to lower our prices. Because when you start with your price way the fuck up here, you can easily lower it down to here. Still be way the fuck above where it should be, but people will accept it easier and go, hey, it's a good deal, And then same with the quality. You know, they're going to be able to say, well, now we're including craft growers or something like this. And so now they're going to be able to say their quality's better. It's a business plan that they're operating here. It's very devious and it's still very wrong, and it'll never be right. That you can't grow whatever amount of plants you want for yourself, or that anybody can easily get into the business of deciding to provide cannabis for people without having to go through all this other bullshit.
We can make our own beer.
Exactly.
So we'll be able to grow our own weed and sell our own weed.
They can have their fucking stores. They can have the government stores, but they can't impose these regulations on other people. They can't use our tax dollars to hire our police officers, to have them go around. All of that is still going to cause us all the problems that it has so far to date, with young people getting criminal records, with criminal organized gangs using violence to solve their issues, and all the rest of these things are all just a result of prohibition, and all that is going to continue with what they're trying to do. I'm just like Sam, I'm an optimist. I don't think they're going to get away with it, because there's a lot of fine people that are,
takes time.
It does.
I know. Fucking process. It's crazy. I've noticed that the news has been talking about pot and pets a lot lately. Have you seen that? Apparently, this lady was walking her dog for the second time, and he ate a roach that was on a trail in the forest or something. And 18 hours later, the dog was okay, had recovered, but they had to take him to the hospital and had to do a pee test and all that stuff. So you guys, when you're done, just have a roach container like I do. Don't throw your roaches in the forest.
A pretty damn small dog.
But no, labs. Yeah,
a roach would not put down a lab for 18 hours, in my experience.
I'm more surprised that it happened to the same lady.
A cigarette butt will kill that dog.
Yes. Yeah.
I'll tell you that much.
Yeah.
If it's got any substantial of that product left in it, that can kill a dog. It can kill a human being too. Don't be eating commercial tobacco.
No.
But no, in my experience, and I'm a pet owner, I've had pets, I have my own dog, I have lots of other people with their pets, I know lots of people that treat their pets with cannabis. One small roach would not put down a lab for 18 hours in any way, shape, or form, not a chance.
All over global news.
There's something else going on
something else. I was thinking
something else.
Maybe it was her pot. Because when you get two dogs, she owns two dogs. One dog ate it when the dog was a year old, and now the older dog ate it just recently.
I think she's hiding her own cannabis use, and it's
high-dose
edibles.
That's probably what it is, right?
I mean, I got a good bullshit detector. I mean, like I said, I don't have a doctorate in anything. I'm no scientist, but I still have a pretty good bullshit detector, and there's something not right about that story, I'll tell you.
And how does it happen? The chances of you finding a roach on a trail in a forest and having two dogs... Who
throws their roaches away, for one thing?
Exactly, right?
Sounds like Cannabis hater.
I think she is. Yeah, I was just saw that on the news. They've been really pushing that pot and pets.
Well, this is the propaganda that we've been being hit with for a long time. They know when to come out with just the right story to continue to confuse and distract the populace, whatever you want to call them, us people. And this is just more of that by the sounds of it, for sure. I mean, don't be feeding your little dog high-dose edibles.
Sure. Okay, this is for Frank.
For Frank?
No, Frank says here, the man in the blue shirt does not inhale. There you go, Frank. Because when you inhale, just like that, I'm already inhaling in order to get the smoke into my lungs. So just puffing on a joint, you're inhaling. But there you go. I just did that for you. Yeah, right here. Yeah. James Dog. The man in the blue shirt does not inhale.
Well, I'll tell you what, James. I personally don't feel that it should be mandatory for everybody to have to inhale.
But you are inhaling when you got to pull the smoke.
I don't think that weed should be mandatory for everybody. Most people maybe, but not for everybody. Some people, I'll put it that way. Some people, weed should be mandatory for, but not for everybody.
He goes, no, you did.
I don't think he's a narc.
No.
I don't think so. Still have to be careful.
He just has to be what?
He could be real, like, deep narc, like, been in there for a long time. One of these days he's going to bust me.
For not healing, yeah.
He's just waiting for the right time.
That's great.
Oh, man. So that was fun, Glenn.
That was fun.
CannaMatch.ca if
Come
you want
check
to
us
hook up
out.
with people. Great service for anybody that wants to get together with anybody. If you're into a town you're not used to, check out CannaMatch.ca. There's probably someone in that town that can help you out, and you can smoke some weed together.
Good med shop or something like that. Yeah. Find good meds.
It's always good to have other people to help you inhale the magical vapors.
And then, just if you're traveling by yourself and you want to meet another stoner, because it's always fun to get high and you meet a new friend and stuff like that, and there you go, you give me the
And as with smoking cannabis, it really doesn't matter what your motivation is. If you want to find people that smoke weed, you can do it through CannaMatch.ca.
There you go.
There you go.
All right,
Thanks,
we'll see you next week.
We'll see you next week.
Yeah.
All right, so that brings us to the Martin Medical Moment, a segment of the program where we talk about the pursuit for medical access to medical patients through storefronts and with low barrier access to meet the needs of the poor, sick Canadians that are out there. It's the Martin Medical Moment because it focuses on Jerry Martin, who was a cannabis dispensary owner in Whitewood, Saskatchewan for 4 years. And about 4.5 years ago, he was raided and arrested for selling cannabis to people. And he's still trying to get his day in court, but it's coming up pretty fast. And so we'll let Jerry tell you a little bit about that. But we're also joined today with a co-applicant on the constitutional challenge with Jerry, Pat Warnecke, a great fellow who's been doing fine work in Saskatchewan and with the Indigenous community, trying to further the rights of people to get access to this plant. Funny that we should be having, or not so funny really, but strange that we should be having to fight for access to plants in a free country when the only reason that this plant has any problems is that it's very medicinal and helps people a lot. And that seems to be a barrier to getting access to it reasonably, even with public servants who you would think are put in place to try to provide services for people to get things that they need. It seems in this case it's doing the very opposite. So gentlemen, come on in. Great to see you again, Jerry.
Yep.
Good to see you, Pat.
Good to see you, Neil.
Been a while.
Yeah.
I hear you've been having fun.
Yes, sir.
That's the most important thing in life, in my opinion, is have some fun.
It's been a great winter.
Yeah, wonderful. So, tell me a little bit about yourself, or tell my viewers a little bit about yourself.
Pat Warnecke, I've been in the cannabis industry for about 10 years, I guess now. We started and operated Best Bud Society in Saskatchewan. And
How long did you do that for?
For 4 years.
Right?
Yeah, we started up in originally 2015. And we got rated in 2018 to continue the program for a while after that. We continued to help out several First Nations across Canada, 16 First Nations across Canada with their bylaws, laws, regulations as far as their own communities, as well as helping to start up stores, grow ops, and other consulting in that area.
Wonderful. And now you're taking part in this case with Jerry. Tell us a little bit about what that's about.
Yeah, correct. Jerry was in Saskatchewan, obviously, too, and he was operating about a year before us, and he got raided about a year before us, I think, too, right?
2016.
Oh, yeah, it was 2018.
I started in 2012.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah. But we were in Regina. Jerry was in South Saskatchewan. We
Did he inspire you at all to do what you were doing? Did you know of him at all?
I didn't know Jerry at the time. We actually, I didn't even go down there until after. I didn't meet Jerry until Vancouver.
Yeah.
I was actually out here. I actually came and I saw you before I met you, and I saw several other people. Dana and a couple other people came visiting stores out here. I didn't actually get to visit Jerry's shop before it got shut down.
Right.
So
you were just doing similar things.
Yeah,
in
similar things.
Saskatoon, was it?
Regina.
Regina.
We actually 2013 was actually when we got involved when put applications, and we were MMPR number 40 to put the applications in for the grow ops and whatnot. And then from then I was actually helping a lot of patients with their applications as far as their medical licenses and so on to grow. From then it kind of turned into the dispensary, starting up in. I guess in late 2014, late 2014, December, and then from there we ran Best Buds in Regina, Saskatoon, and Edmonton. So with our raids around the same time as Jerry's there, a lot of our access rights, charter rights were being violated at the time. A lot of the decisions that were made now, our decision and whatnot before. Obviously the barriers for homeless people with the addresses and with the credit cards and all the barriers that we know, as well as the product. Barriers that were there was a lack of access. So with that, we've been challenging, putting our charter challenge in, and comes up here next month. We have, I think, a very strong case.
Like 3 weeks or so?
Yeah, I guess it's 3 weeks now. I guess I don't know.
33 days.
Yeah, it's
33 days. Not that you're counting.
No.
Yeah, I think we ourselves and Justin, another guy from Weyburn that had a shop. I didn't visit the shop either, but Justin's involved with us. We have 4 expert doctors that'll be our expert witnesses, testimonies. We have some solid witnesses. One person that was an ex-homeless person that use cannabis to help themselves out of addiction and get off the streets. One is a mother who had problems with an autistic child, obviously feeding their child this diluted product, this oil that came from CannaMatch and stuff. It was like $186 a day to give it to the kid. Plus, on top of that, trying to give an autistic child, 100 milliliters of this oil, the kid was spitting in their face and things like that, So, there's a lot of barriers to products and a lot of at the time. So we have that, and as well as the chief of a First Nation that had a lot of problems with their community and access problems after a doctor, the most overprescribing opioid doctor outside of Florida, basically decimating this community and really harmed this community a lot, getting way too many opioids. From there, the doctor was charged, was then basically given a slap on the hand and forced to retire. But the result was that we've had some programs that we've had to help run Saskatchewan.
You're also building on the cases that have been before the courts before over the years. So many victories from the Allard case to what happened with Sean Howell recently in Alberta there. The findings of those judges is very powerful and has not been adhered to at all by the governments.
No, I agree. I think obviously the Allard decision was. I mean, the Allard decision they seem to be honoring for about 3 or 4 years there. Obviously before the big corporate rollover came into play here. They seem to be honoring it. As soon as they made out the rules in 2018, all of a sudden the raids began.
Well,
right?
that's one of my concerns is they're not honoring what the judges are saying.
That's right.
Exactly.
Not at all.
Yeah.
No,
They
Allard
never
decision-
have.
No.
They should be found in contempt because they go away and they tweak it a little bit and say, okay, we fixed it, and they didn't. In the Allard case, Judge Phelan in the Allard case has still not closed that case because he's still not satisfied with reasonable access. That's why that case continues open.
I can't remember the exact wording, but some of the dispensaries are at the heart of
the heart of access.
Access, that's
yeah,
right.
The heart of access.
So
for
I
medical
mean,
people.
even the judge's own words obviously be part of the case. I can see that kind of. But with Sean Howell's case, the judge went as far as to say yes, the needs weren't being met and so on, but they didn't give any kind of recommendations to how to fix the problem. So I think they kind of fell short as far as that went. So
well, but that's what you guys were doing was showing how you fix that. This is how we fix those things. This is how we give people proper access to cannabis. Same thing with what we're doing here with the Healing Wave and the Cannabis Substitution Program. Low cost and no cost cannabis in a way that's structured to make sure that everybody's needs are met and everybody that needs access can get access. We're providing the model. You guys have been providing the model for years, and the government just needs to listen to you guys, right? I mean, stop spending money on lawyers and having to go to court to defend a position that is completely wrong. Get on the right side of history. Get on the right side of this issue. The good people like yourselves who have been running dispensaries for all this time are the ones that know how to run a dispensary and how to provide what the community wants. So, this is so ludicrous that we're doing this. I wish we had some way to address it, in this so-called free country of ours. But we really don't. We lack in our society the mechanisms to go after the corruption in government that is allowed to happen and is so obvious when it comes to cannabis. There's not much we can do about it, and they act that way. The way they put things together, the Cannabis Act, it's like blatant. They believe they're an authority over us and that they can make pretty much whatever rules they want without any justification for it at all.
Yeah, they're going to be doing a massive overhaul here soon.
They're going to have to.
Yeah.
They have to.
Let's go worse.
the corruption behind it. I know, even in my specific case, I have a rare form of psoriatic arthritis. The government is spending over $16,000 a month for my treatments.
Wow.
Those treatments end up putting me in hospital, lumbar punctures, spinal taps, and all these adverse reactions to it. But in the end, they want me to pay tax now on my cannabis, which is the only thing that's helping me keep me out of the hospital. So they're not even paying a dime for it, which they're paying $16,000 a month before, up to during treatments, and that's not including the nurses and everything else, but they're paying up to that amount on something they didn't know the long-term side effects. They don't know how it was going to affect, if it even helped. They're willing to pay that money to the big corporations, but they won't even help me as a cannabis patient to take my taxes off of my cannabis?
The answer is within your statement, and it's 2 words that you used: big corporation. Our governments work for big corporations. They don't work for us. And
Mike
it's very
Ted
clear.
Smith brought that tax case to court, and I think that was a big influence on how we got taxed too on cannabis.
Or Larry Campbell, who used to just preach, let's legalize it, but tax the shit out of it, he would say. And I'd be like, well, there's no reason to tax cannabis. It's not causing a detriment in our society that costs us money that we should collect some money for to cover the costs of. It's quite the opposite. It's a violence suppressor. It's going to result in less people using alcohol and commercial tobacco and harmful pharmaceuticals, etc., etc. We all know it's it's a health benefit. It's a health plus. It's a cost benefit to our society to have cannabis used in place of so many of these other things. There's no reason to tax that. There'd be a good reason to encourage and supplement that, and especially for people who are using it for medical purposes. I mean, it absolutely needs to be subsidized by government, for sure, by us, by taxpayers, And so that's all part of this battle, for sure, that we're fighting here, right? I mean, that's
access, and hopefully we can. I mean, with Sean Howell's case not getting any decisive action by the judges, hopefully the three of us there, we can get some kind of action.
Hopefully force them to do something. Yeah,
it'd be nice, right? Even the fact that we kind of have access to go out. I mean, obviously BC's a little bit different. Edmonton's done it well. Ontario's done it well, but some of our provinces we can't even use it outside of our home. We can't use it in our backyard.
Well, now you got to own your own home.
So you got to own your home and so on. So
and here in BC, if you're out in a canoe, you're liable for a big fine. Right? If you're supposed to be in your canoe out in the ocean. There's a whole bunch of stupid shit like that. You can't have your plants where people can see it, or you're liable for a big fine. So many crazy, and there's no justification for any of it. Are they still basing it on the original 1920s version of Reefer Madness? Like I said, there's justification because it's all in the money. That's all what it is. It's all it's ever been, and that's really shameful. It is absolutely shameful. At some point, we need some politician with some balls to stand up and say enough already. Enough already. This is not 1600 Netherlands where tulips are worth condominiums. And cannabis shouldn't be worth $7,000 for a single pound of it. I mean, it's just ludicrous what's going on here. And some person has to come along that's got some balls to say that. But of course, they'd probably get assassinated or something because we all know who everybody's really working for, and they all got to do what they're told. The only reason that Health Canada is not, enthusiastically saying thank you for all the good work you've been doing over the last 4 years in helping out your community, and here's a piece of paper with our signature on it to allow you to continue to do that. The only reason they're not doing that is they've made promises to the big boys that they won't allow what it is that we want to provide. There's no money in it for any of them, and because people can easily become a member of our society or of our Healing Wave Dispensary or the Cannabis Substitution Program, that they won't go and buy $17 grams at the government stores. So that's the only reason they're not doing it. We even had the VPD tell me that she said, we're needing to support the Cannabis Act because what you people are trying to do out of your RV there on the side of the road is going to cut into the profitability of the government stores. I mean, she had the gall to tell me that on the telephone. But then that's what I mean. These people are just blatant about it. We get to, whistleblowers coming out and showing us that we're all under surveillance all the time, and there's this, all this other agenda going on, and they go, yeah, that's true, it's going on, and nothing's going to change or not going to stop, and you can't do anything about it, and we are not the free people we think we are, and I think if more people understood that, they'd be more willing to try to do something about that.
Well, I think one of the bigger ramifications that people fail to address is capitalism and capitalistic ways are just dog eat dog. At the end of the day, if we don't support the craft industry and the people the heritage people of this industry that built it up, all that's going to happen, just like we see with Aurora in Edmonton just sold their building and everything else, and all the rest of these guys selling their buildings, all going to shit. The production costs are a lot more in Canada than they are in Mexico. Now with Mexico legalizing in Colombia and so on, under NAFTA, they're going to have to allow it in from Mexico. They can't keep it out under NAFTA. So what's going to happen? The big LPs will be crushed anyways by the low price Mexican weed that's going to come up because it's produced for a lot less by cheaper workers.
But all that will be bought up by Shoppers Drug Mart and Labatt's.
You're right.
Have to get it from the big corporate outlets.
You're right. So that's what I'm saying is that's what our government is basically doing. They're laying in the footwork for our industry to be crushed here and to not have anything to do with the industry. They can't keep it on NAFTA. There's already a dispute going on between Canada and Australia because Canada won't let any of the Australian weed into Canada, but we want to send all of our stuff down there. So there's already a thing going on between us and Australia. There's no NAFTA. With Mexico, there is a NAFTA. It's going to come to effect here. So at the end of the day, we have to support, and the government should be supporting a system that supports the craft growers and the patient growing, not supporting the big LPs, because that's just going to crush the whole industry at the end of the day.
They should leave the industry do whatever it does, and then support low barrier access, because that's the government's real role, is to make sure that people that need to get it should be able to get it and get it affordably and reasonably. And so, how do we get that?
Absolutely.
How do we get that? I don't know. I guess we just keep talking about it. We keep fighting for it. You guys are going to take it to the courts. We keep winning battle after battle, and eventually maybe we win the war.
Yeah.
But it's quite the journey, and it's sure not over. We're not there by any means yet, and still the outcome is not assured in either way.
No.
Yeah, we could easily just become quite slave to the system that we have put in place here for ourselves without the proper mechanisms to address it. But what can we do? We can do what we can do. I'm not an expert on these things. I have some knowledge. You guys probably aren't experts on these things, but you have some knowledge, and lots of other people, even some of them are experts on these things. We should all be thinking about how we can push things forward to make sure that our future generations have public servants instead of real masters that we're all very afraid of. So yeah, that's how we might get it. So hi Jen, reminding me that it's just about time to go and see what's going on out in the RV. What else did you want to talk about today? Jerry, what's going on with you and your Microdelics.ca or
Microdelics. Yeah, it's going good. Yeah, it's steady. Yeah.
So you're still wanting people to consider a website to check out?
Yeah, Microdelics.ca. You can get them now at Coca Leaf Cafe too, and the Healing Wave Band.
Anything you want to promote?
No, I just like to say we're working with a couple different groups right now. We actually just got accepted for a pilot program in Health Canada at Peace Goose First Nation. Because of the story I told before, there's been an outcry, so it's not just cannabis that we're doing harm reduction with, but some other plant medicines and frog medicines.
Nice.
So it's a very interesting pilot project coming up, and we hope it works out well and everybody gets some healing in it. And if it does, it'll be hopefully a big push for everybody in the industry.
Very cool. And the court date coming up?
April 26th, 27th, 28th.
Yeah. And that's in Regina, Saskatchewan?
Yeah.
At the courthouse there?
Yeah, it is.
Are people allowed to go there, do you think? Or how's that going to...
I don't know. I'm going to try to find out. I don't know because of the COVID protocol.
Yeah.
First of all, I don't know about that. And I don't really know. And I'm under a gag order, so we're actually trying to find out exactly what's going on.
I'm not. The reporter just messaged me.
Yeah. It's weird. After we had our first day in court with our case last year, we went back to our first day in court. They dropped the charges on my wife, and they wiped those charges out. They tried to give us a peace bond, and we said no to the peace bond. At the end of the day, they gave us a gag order because they didn't like what we had to say because of the info we were giving out to people. So they gave us a gag order. So we're actually trying to figure out if my parents can come and what's all going to go on with this right now. With this whole.
And what do the lawyers think about the gag order?
My lawyer's actually blown away. He's never seen it before. So he doesn't know what to say.
So not so
They
much
told
freedom
a
of
lot of the
speech.
newspapers said they wouldn't do a story with me because of a gag order that didn't exist.
Oh.
So I've not had one, but they tell people, the lawyers, the crowns tell people that. I tell a lot of them that.
Yeah, I was talking to court as soon as we brought up the relevant information, like some really serious info about the police that were investigating our case and stuff. As soon as that happened, they basically had a scrum, came back and said, "Here you go. You can't say nothing."
Wow. That sounds like an interesting case all in itself there.
Yeah, well, it is. Yeah, for sure.
Hopefully one day you'll be able to talk about that.
After the case is done, I'm sure I'll be allowed to talk.
Yeah.
So after we'll talk about that. But there's definitely some police corruption in there. That's why we got the gag order because they don't want to talk about it. So.
Wow. Well, very, very interesting times we're living in for sure. Times are coming up real fast now for that court date. Pretty soon we'll be talking about what happened there. Fingers crossed, but hopefully we're a little optimistic. I don't think they have anything.
No, they don't. I think they're running a little bit scared with the people we're bringing to court. I think they have some relevant arguments, and we need to get as much support as we can for it. We've been kind of quiet about it.
So what would that look like? Support?
Might be support showing up outside the courthouse for people in and around Saskatchewan. Might be support online. There's going to be people. I'm sure the professor will probably be covering it. I'm sure Sterling will be there covering a bunch of it. Watching online, raising attention, trying to get some media coverage. I think some of the big newspapers are actually going to try to not cover it in Regina because of the political connections in Regina and stuff. So we need to get some exposure that people actually get to see it because I honestly think that CTV and CBC, because of our past and calling out some of the rich people in Regina, they're not going to cover it.
CBC's going to cover it.
Are they?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah, they've been covering me, so he's going to fight. He was just messaging.
Good. Okay, well, hopefully that's good. So, I mean,
so people can bug their media.
None of the rest
if they want to know what's going on with this story. There's a big story coming up, so you can contact your media outlet and let them know you're interested. Contact other people involved in the case, perhaps. Call the prosecutor.
We'll make a Facebook page up, I'm sure, here to get support, let everybody know what's going on.
Good.
We want to keep up to date with everybody. try to get a rally going again, get a little bit of get a little noise going, because it's been a while since we had a big win or any kind of noise in this to help everybody out. And it's for some of us, we feel kind of lonely back in the corners for a couple of years here without any kind of help and going anywhere, right?
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, we've been stifled as a community because of COVID as well. There's no 420 or anything like that going on again this year. So, there's a lot of people looking for things to rally around, and this is one of those cases that is really something we should rally around. It's one of the most important cases coming up for sure, is what you guys are fighting for, and that's the right for people to access, reasonably through storefronts, cannabis in ways that help them with their medical issues. It's such a stupid thing to have to fight for. I mean, it should be an absolute no-brainer. They got stores for everything else that people want. Any type of thing that people want, somebody will set up a store and they get to sell that stuff. But you want to try to get people like just a natural herbal medicine that has no track record of ever harming anybody significantly, and it's nothing but barrier after barrier. Sure. So crazy time.
I guess one of the good things about COVID is that since COVID, they called these, even though they're LP dispensaries, they still called them essential services. And
our program too, we were deemed an essential program.
Well, that's good. That's great. That's great. I think that'll help our case a little bit too.
I think so too. Yeah.
So if there's one good thing that comes about it, is I think that label that they put on it itself. I mean, if it was in 2020, it is in 2018 too. I
mean, I've already talked with Jerry about it on past shows, but you also would probably have been helping people that were struggling with addiction and get access to cannabis for that as well, right? Yeah. So a lot of what we're asking for, our application, all of that, and those doctors and professors that have supported us with letters, those are likely relevant to your case as well. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Very good. Well, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. I know it's not easy to take these things to court. It's a lot of time out of people's lives and money and dealing with a lot of shit, and frustration as well. So myself and so many other people in our community, thank you guys so much for following through on this. And we're getting real close now, and we'll see what happens. I'll believe it when I see it. I always say that. I'll believe it when I see it. I don't know.
Thank you for leading the way. Give us.
I have hope, but I have no faith. Just like in the Vancouver Canucks, I have hope, but I have no faith. They've given me little reason for faith. So, all right, we'll catch up with you next week probably, and we'll be following what you're doing as well. And thanks for all the good work you've done so far. It's a pleasure to know you, and I love what you guys are doing. I think it's very, very powerful. The Indigenous communities have a huge role to play in getting the reasonable access that we deserve down the road. I think
it's a natural way.
Yeah, and a way to stand up to this corrupt government of ours as well, and say, hey, we demand what's right. That's what we all need to be saying. We just demand what's right now. Come on, because what they got is not right at all. So. Cool.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So at this point, we're going to go out and visit the Healing Wave RV and Cannabis Substitution Project van, as we always do. This is going on like this because, as I mentioned earlier, but for those of you who may not know, it's been a struggle for us here on the downtown east side of Vancouver to address the opioid overdose epidemic with the use of cannabis, especially high-dose edibles. It was apparent to me early on when the crisis hit that one of the most important things that we could have to address the use of or the misuse of opioids or the tainted drug supply that was killing people is to have cannabis high-dose edibles as easily available as possible, having learned prior to that high-dose edibles gets people through withdrawal and can replace the use of all of these other so-called hard drugs. High-dose edibles has the effect that can put you right to sleep for a couple of days. You can eat too much high-dose edibles and be comatose like that, and for that reason there's a dose in there that will work for a person, whatever it is that their needs are, be it low or high. And so with that in mind, and at the same time the city of Vancouver deciding to shut down most of the dispensaries through regulations that they were imposing on them and licensing that they were imposing on them that really was code for shutting most of the 180 dispensaries down. And those that would survive were not going to be able to sell high-dose edibles, which to me was the exact opposite of what was required to address this epidemic. So in conjunction with VANDU, the Vancouver Area Network of Drug Users, myself and eventually a really good team of people handed out high-dose edibles to hundreds of people twice a week for 2.5 years, a full year before that. And then after that, thanks to the city of Vancouver responding to studies being released by Dr. M.J. Malloy showing the effectiveness of our program, we met with the city
got agreements that we would find a storefront and start providing low barrier access. And that resulted in an issue with the federal government not responding in time with what we needed to get the city to go along with that, which they said they would do, seeing as how they had decided to follow the lead of Canada with respect to cannabis. So we're now 6 months into that. We had our store for 4.5 months. Without Health Canada responding to our application, both for licenses and an application for an emergency ministerial exemption so that we wouldn't get evicted for not having a license. That didn't happen, and we ended up getting evicted. A landlord who did not want to evict us, but decided on the advice of his lawyer that he had to act against us or be subject to fines and prosecution. He took us to court. The judge there, rather than give us the time that we had asked for in the way of an adjournment so that we could get our licenses in place, decided that our hands were unclean because we were still breaking laws, saving people's lives and helping to rescue them from addiction. And so he gave us 7 days to vacate the premises or at least cease operations here. And so we immediately overnight moved into an RV because we have a program where 250 people are getting 420 milligrams of high-dose edibles for free every 4 days and have been for years. We can't let these people down. We have to be where they can find us, and we have to continue our program, and it would be absolutely unconscionable to stop doing that. So we secured an RV, and the following morning, open as always, and from then till now, we've been providing low barrier access through the RV, parked about 40 feet away from the storefront on the curb. Just having completed winter, it's now into our second day of spring here, and we went the entire winter out there in the RV waiting for Health Canada to give us some sort of a piece of paper with a signature on it that would allow the city to license us so that we could continue doing what we had been demonstrating for 4 years was exactly the right thing to do, especially for this community here. So yeah, that's where we're at. It's been over 6 months since we applied, and we're going into our 20th week of being in the RV. And let's go have a look at what's going on out there, as we do every week now. A little overcast, downtown Vancouver, BC. Carly Thiessen.
Vancouver.
How are you doing? Yeah? What brings you to this part of the town? Carly has been a wonderful activist for a long time here in our community, and she's a baker and a producer of fine cannabis edibles and things, and she has stepped up and tried to replace some of the fine goods that we were getting from Mary McCarty. Shout out to Mary. I love you, Mary.
She's in the chat. She says hi.
What's that?
She's in the chat.
She's in the chat. I figured she was watching. Yeah, so the loss of Mary was great, but it also has meant an opportunity for other people to step up and help us out, and you've decided to do that, so thank you so much.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity.
So what's your history of getting to this point where you're helping us out with the program? How did it come to this?
Oh boy, Neil. Well, unfortunately this year I lost my cousin to an overdose, an opiate overdose, and I just decided that when Mary left that, that void could never be filled because Mary was unbelievable.
Pretty special,
Let's just say she was amazing.
All day, every day bacon.
Right? Nobody can do that. No. But I'm telling you that in my heart, it felt like I just had to it was a way to heal. It was a way for me to heal because, of course, right now we can't have any, celebrations of life, or you can't even get together with your friends and family to say goodbye. Yeah. So this was my way of, I actually got to start on the day that it was the opiates Day.
National Awareness Day.
Yeah. And that was a huge honor because I wanted to do something for Tyler, and that was just sort of a way to do it. So
wonderful,
yeah.
and it is. That's what we find with a lot of people that contribute, is that they've had issues with things that have happened to family members or friends that they've lost to the opioid epidemic, and
this is a way to give back, and I'm really happy that we can provide that for people, because it really is a huge need, isn't it? I mean, when you have that kind of hole in your heart for something that's happening, it's really powerful to be able to find something to do, to feel like you're doing something. Even though I didn't lose anybody personally to cause me to start this program, I still felt, all of that. Like, I felt like this is a horrible situation, and I need to do something, and I can do something. I know there's something that works, and so for me too, it was very much like that. It was like this situation of people dying like this, you feel helpless, and if you find something you can do to help, it really, really, really helps. So,
it does help, and I thank you for that, because just being able to do that and give back to the people that I know are suffering helps.
And hopefully, when we sort out our licensing from Health Canada, that they understand that the people that have been helping us out with our program and providing what we're giving away to people here and what we're having at low cost for people here is from people who need a way to give back, that this is very important to them, and that needs to be something that is maintained, that we need to be able to continue to allow ourselves to be a vehicle for people who want to give back. We test what we're given. We had people test what Carly gave us. We test everything that comes in here. We're quite careful about what it is that we distribute to people. We look after that because we care. I hope the government's going to let us continue to do that, and us be the overseers of that, because we care, we know how to let people contribute, and we know where something isn't really good enough to be given out, and we can address all of that, and we've done that over the years as well. So this is going to be a big issue for us with respect to licensing, is who gets to be suppliers of ours, and how that, that what we've got going here gets to continue to happen, because it's extremely necessary for people who have lost people and people who are really close to the situation and feel like they need to do something. This is a great way for them to do something, and I hope the government respects that.
It's imperative for human connection as well, and because COVID has stopped so much one-to-one connection, God forbid anybody gives anybody a hug. I mean, that would just be... Can you imagine a year without hugs? Because some people have gone a lot longer than that, and I'm sorry, it's just not acceptable, and this is sort of a way to give somebody a hug if you can't actually hug them, right?
The government should have long ago come out and said, hey, you know what, you can hug people, just try to keep your mouths from lining up too close, hold your breath while you're going in for the hug. We should have instructions from the government on how to hug safely, because hugging is extremely important. Human connection is extremely important. The mental health issues that are running parallel to this pandemic are extremely, extremely strong, and we need to deal with them. We got people committing suicide and worse than that, lashing out in horrible ways that are affecting their whole communities. So yeah, please, let's think about that side of it. And I agree with you. There's got to be ways for people to hug reasonably. Come on now. We're being gaslit here by a government that just wants everybody to obey.
It's a scandemic, people. I'm sorry to say it, but it's a scandemic. Yes, there's a virus out there. Yes, you have to be careful, but this has gone way too far. Way too far.
Way too far. They're making people comply with things that aren't reasonable. And there's something to that when you get reasonable human beings complying with things they don't think are reasonable, and they start going along with that. There's a lot of manipulation ability there down the road, and there's other things coming down the road where this exercise in how to manipulate people and get them to obey is going to be used for much more sinister things. I fear. Anyway. But you can't say anything about it, because you'll be shamed to death for telling anybody that maybe they shouldn't have a mask on 24 hours a day, including when they're showering and sleeping. It's crazy. I'm in favor of masks when it's a reasonable thing to do, but I also think that people should understand that they don't have to wear them all the time, because that's not reasonable either. It's a false sense of security, if nothing else. Most of the masks are not infection, and really it's not about not catching it, it's about not passing it on.
Exactly.
So, and we're not all asymptomatic, and that's just another word for being healthy.
Exactly.
Anyhow, I don't want to get into this because I'm going to get all kinds of
no, but I mean, like I said, the virus is definitely there, but the way that the government has, made everybody so fearful is just not necessary.
We live in a sea of all kinds of different bacteriums and things that can harm us. We always need to be careful. We always needed to be careful. You don't want to be swapping spit with just anybody, and there's all these things going on. But that doesn't mean that you don't hug your friends and your family. It doesn't mean that those people that want to hug shouldn't do it.
Yeah, we just need to love each other. Love is the answer to everything. People want to be super careful, fine, be super careful. Anyway, I don't want to say any more. It's not a topic I like to talk about. There's no winning with this topic. There's no winning.
And we're not the ones that are going to change that. So.
True.
But we can change the opiate prices.
We can.
Maybe.
Let's go see the RV. Thanks, Carly.
Bye.
Who's gonna get it? It's not now.
So what do we got here? This has been our center of operations for the last 20 weeks. Well, we're last 19. We're just starting our 20th week. They come and go really fast. We got a really good crew in there of people who are very compassionate to people. We dispense a lot of things besides just cannabinoids because we're really here to help people in the ways that they need to be helped, whatever that is. We have clothing giveaways on a regular basis. At least once a week we've got tables out because people bring us donations of stuff and we're able to provide socks and clothes and other things for people. But I think most importantly is we're an ear. We're a place where people come and they know that they're going to be heard if they've got something going on that they need to talk about. And although it can be difficult at times to hear the different situations that people are in, especially in this area, there's a lot of mental health issues. There's a lot of people who have been traumatized in many ways and continue to be. And they need somebody that they can talk to about it. And they need some place where they can feel like they're respected as a human being. And we're pretty good at dispensing that as well. It's part of the model that we've provided here. Let's go inside. Hi. Want to poke your head in here for a minute?
How's it going, Neil?
Hey, Andrew. Hey, Jen. It looks smoky in there. Better not be cigarettes.
No, we're doing our job. What's your preference around here?
Yeah. Small bottles are 30, large bottles are 60.
So, this is all really cool and everything, and we've managed to make this work. We have continued our program of helping the 250 members that we've capped at 250. They come here and they get access, and that's all working fine. But really, there's so much more that we want to do and that we can do if we're allowed to do it. We formed a society to be able to better address government and to bring in interested parties in a structured manner that would be able to facilitate some of our dreams of how we can really help down here. And we have all those plans, and all of it's been just put on hold. We've been on hold now for 20 weeks coming up. We were in our shop and we were moving ahead with things, and our project of handing out care packs to people from Van Du on the sidewalk evolved into having a program where we registered 250 people, and rather than just giving them care packs of our choosing, we have a large variety of things that people can choose from, and they come here and they're able to get the 420 milligrams in whatever fashion they want to get them through the next 4 days. And that was an evolution in our program. To be able to have them choose between sativa, indica, CBD, THC, the different dosages, the different forms that we can put it in for them to ingest it, so that we could gather that information. And we do. We chart everything that everybody takes so that we know each member and what they're choosing each time. We can see how that evolves and what it is that they find that's working best for them. So there's a real focus on research with what we're doing here as well, so that we can better serve people. And so that all evolved once we moved into the store, and then we got evicted, and then we got moved out into here, and all of that got put on hold. We also, as a society, wanting to do good things on the downtown east side, the Serious Hope Society, although our main mission statement is about providing therapeutic cannabinoids to people for health and wellness, there's a lot more that we wanted to do as well. And we've got great plans for doing all of these things. But without the government giving us the ministerial exemption so that we can get the license from the city, we also are not able to get a bank account, because our focus is on providing cannabinoid therapeutics. When if we go to a bank, or when we go to the bank and say we would like to have an account, right away their question is this fall within the confines of the Cannabis Act? And when it doesn't, then they won't grant you a bank account. So without government approval, our society has been stuck. We're stuck for months now, just waiting, hoping that we are going to be able to do the great things that we want to do here. Our ability to service this community has been severely diminished by being, stuck in this little RV here and operating every day under duress, every day wondering if the VPD, if they're being patient and waiting for Health Canada, or maybe they're running a little bit of an undercover operation to gather information on what we're doing so that they can put it into a file and hand it to a prosecutor and we can be charged and arrested and all the rest of that. So we really don't know what's going on and we really can't move forward. It's difficult to fundraise without a bank account, and that's why I never appeal for funds on the show for the Serious Hope Society, because we don't have a bank account to process them yet. So we're just waiting and we're waiting and we're waiting, and we've been waiting for a long time. And while we're waiting, people are dying and more people are falling out of our reach for being able to rescue them. And all of this is on government, and the only reason they're doing it is to protect corporate money interests. So it's pretty disgusting, and we continue to be upset about it. And, we continue to think that maybe tomorrow will be the day that we finally get notification that the federal health minister has agreed to just give us a piece of paper with a signature that gives their approval on what it is that we're doing so that we can keep doing it. I mean, maybe down the road they're going to tell us we have to do it differently. And if it makes sense, then that's fine. We're more than willing to do things differently when they make sense. I'm sure we're going to have all those negotiations. We won't accept taxation at any stage of providing what we're providing here. We don't need to. There's no need for governments to be involved in taking a cut of us getting cannabinoids to people at reasonable prices. Any taxation we would have to put onto the product at sale, and that's right onto the backs of the people that can't afford it in the first place. So we're going to have those discussions and numerous other discussions about how things are provided for. When you're talking about edibles, there needs to be food safe in place, and we try to make sure that we're doing that as best we can. But I'm sure we're going to have conversations about that, and that's fine. And packaging to some degree will need to be reasonable. It certainly will not be, especially if it's going to add costs to what we're doing. We're not going to go along with the ridiculous packaging that the government has going on with the government stores. That's obscene in a day and age when we're trying to protect the environment. To have single-use packaging that's so obscene and overdone like they have, we certainly would not agree to any of that, especially if there was costs going to be incurred. We wouldn't agree with that anyway, because fundamentally that goes against everything that's ethical with respect to how we feel about our environment in this day and age. So that level of single-use packaging is not something we would agree to, but we have to have these conversations. So there's going to be, I would think, some give and take and some conversations and negotiations about what the right way to do what we're doing is, and that's all fine. But in the meantime, we're not asking for permission to start doing this. We're asking that we be recognized for what we have been doing and how for the last 4 years we've been demonstrating the effectiveness of what we're doing and the safety of what we're doing, so that there's no justification for putting anything onto us that would impair our ability to do what we're doing, because what we're doing is helping so many people, hurting no one. And like I said, I'm willing to talk about anything that's reasonable. I would like to talk about that. But in the meantime, we are in limbo as a society, as a group of people trying to help. We're still doing what we're doing, but we're not able to evolve it. And had we been able to evolve it over these last 5 months that we've been out here on the curb, our society would already be doing many more great things, and many more people would already be taking advantage of that and being benefited because of that. So shame on the government for not permitting us free people from doing the good that we know needs to be done during a time when there's an epidemic of overdose deaths going on. I mean, this is when people step up and do what has to be done, and any law that would get in the way of that can be damned. Any law that would prevent somebody from saving someone's life is of no force and effect at that time. And so we're standing on these fundamentals and doing what has to be done, because damn it, it has to be done. And no ethical, logical human being is going to just walk away from a situation that needs their help, where people are dying,
you just don't do that. That's not what we do as human beings. So a government that would demand that we turn our backs on these people and walk away is a government that does not deserve respect. And so we're just going to see what happens, in the next short while here, and whether or not they're going to cooperate with us and give us support, or whether we're going to have to go the route of Jerry and Pat and other people that have had to go to court and launch a constitutional challenge against government policies that in this case are definitely resulting in more deaths than would otherwise happen. So that's how I feel about all that. So hello. Andrew, George in the back there, Jen, of course, everybody knows. I guess all you guys are becoming famous now. Are you having fun today?
Sure.
Yeah, anything to report?
We've had over 20.
Andrew gives me this blank stare of, uh-oh.
We're all stoned. We're like,
What? You're doing drugs on the job?
medicine.
It's part of the testing that we need to do.
We've had a good day.
We've had a good day.
We've done over 20 by 25 people in CSP.
25 people have come and got 423 milligrams so far
George
today.
is doing a good job over there.
Yeah, that's the back door area where George is. Hey, George, can you hold that tray out maybe so, I don't know if people can see it at home or not.
Bring it over.
So this is our tray
It's
of
strong.
things that we have. We got these ones are 120 milligrams. These are 100 milligrams per little package. Of course, these would be 50 then, right?
Yep. No, those are the 100s.
These are hundreds, so these are 200s.
Those are 250s.
Those are two. Yeah,
50 milligrams.
250s, which makes 100.
Yeah.
There you go.
This is just one cube that's twice as powerful as those two because it's 100 all by itself. These are 10 milligrams per ball, yes?
Yes. Yeah.
They used to be 5, but now they're 10. These ones are pretty strong. They're 150 milligrams per unit there. And so there's some good muffins here as well, thanks to John. And Colleen has provided these things up here. And these things here actually as well.
Everybody's doing great.
Yeah, and Carly Keeson's got a bunch of stuff
All
for
the
us as well.
donations, everybody's done very well.
So many people are helping us. We really appreciate all that.
appreciate all
The
that.
CSP program is all done by donation. It always has been since the beginning. We've given out probably 15 million milligrams of cannabis over the course of the 4 years. So, yeah.
And we've had good results too. People are telling us they like coming.
Yeah, they like coming. We get a lot of grateful people every day here.
Sure we do. They love it.
So I guess that's my report for this week. We'll continue to upgrade you on our quest for low barrier access to community cannabis shops.
You mean update them?
Upgrade, update. Same thing, isn't it?
She has the same thing.
She teases me all day long. It's horrible working here, I'll tell you. It's
Autocorrects
just,
everybody.
I'm constantly being tortured. I can't say the least thing wrong. If I slur anything or make a mistake, she's all over me. You can read all about it in her daily blog, Jen Nelson on Facebook. And I challenge anyone to find a spelling mistake in any of her blogs.
Well, some stuff I purposely spell wrong for short.
Well, and people would know that because it's obvious. But yeah, she does a really good job of chronicling what happens here on a daily basis. At least some of it. There's a lot of stuff that, by the end of an 8-hour shift, you can't remember everything. It's hard to take notes, especially when we're busy. So there's a lot of stuff that probably doesn't get properly reported. We should maybe live stream all day, every day from here so people can really see what's going on and how much good we're doing and the people that we're helping and how we're helping them. But in the meantime, you can read Jen's blog. And on Pot TV, there's a bunch of other shows as well. I got to thank Cannabis Culture and Pot TV for allowing me this platform, to my producer Neil for all his fine work in making it happen, because it doesn't happen without Neil, and that's true for most of the shows that we have on. Mondays we got the 420 Lifestyle Show with Carly Marley and BC Bud Gal, and I don't know what we're not doing anything in Greg Williams' spot yet.
Not yet. There's some people who've been interested, but I'm still kind of leaving it open. We share other videos outside of the shows we produce, but if you're interested in a show, let me know. There's a number of things I'd like to do, but it's a pretty big. We
have a huge hole to fill here at Cannabis Culture.
You're gonna have to really bring it.
And with Pot TV, Greg Williams, the founder of Pot TV, recently passed away. We're so shocked and saddened by that. I think there's still an opportunity with the GoFundMe page to help out a bit. There may still be some needs there.
I'll put a link in the show notes in case anyone would like to say thank you to Greg, which I'm sure you've smoked. If you popped a seed in the last 30 years in North America, there's like a pretty good chance it like touched Greg's desk.
Yeah,
So
he had a hand in it somewhere. So yeah, very happy about all of Greg's fine work, and very sad that we've lost him. It's the time when you have to balance the celebrating of somebody's life with the sense of loss of not having him with us anymore. So I'm still struggling to come to grips with that at this time. But on Thursday we do have BC Bud Gal back again with Morning Glory, and I'm sure you can wake and bake with her somewhere around 10 a.m. The other shows are mostly around 4 or shortly after 4. Friday we got Johnny B with How's It Growing. I haven't checked in with Johnny on How's It Growing, but I did see some really big buds he was showing off recently, so I think it's been growing pretty good with Johnny.
He's been actually doing a bit of traveling, so he's going to come back with some video, and he got a bunch of meters, and he's been running around testing things all over the place. I'm excited to see what Johnny brings back.
Yeah, as anybody would be if they're growing plants, and we should all be growing plants. We still need to grow as many plants as we can. We need to overgrow the government. We don't have enough marijuana in our world, and you can help with that if nothing else. And I guess we don't have anything going on with Boss Lissa yet. For
nothing yet, but we've got other videos and 20-year archives, so
Saturday,
stuff always
Sunday,
growing, more stuff coming.
Yeah, always something to do on Pot TV for sure. And for us, we're hoping that Health Canada really gets its act together and does what they have to do the right thing, to give us permission to do what we're doing, which we have proven is the right thing to do. And if you want to help us with that, there's letters you can write, there's people you can email, there's all those types of things. Anything you think you can do to help further the issue of providing low barrier access. We all, as Canadians, need low barrier access. Maybe a small percentage of the population can deal with the $14 grams and the high barrier access that are in the government stores right now. But most of us are just ordinary people, and we deserve to be able to go and buy cannabis reasonably and not pay prohibition prices or post-prohibition government prices, which are higher. And so let's all do something about that until we get that. Because, it is, for anybody who really understands, you know what I'm saying. For those who don't understand what I'm saying, you can look into it. Cannabis being readily available, easily, reasonably accessed would be one of the most beneficial things that our society could ever do. It would solve so many of our issues. It would reduce the use of so many problematic substances. It would help so many people with their health issues. I could go on and on. Provides employment, all kinds of things. Just look into it for yourself. You'll see that the whole thing was just a huge scam, all perpetrated because cannabis is valuable, not because cannabis is dangerous. And cannabis was going to cut into the bottom line profits of people who had patents on things and other things like that. Those are the reasons for the prohibition of cannabis. It's racism, it's corporatism, it's protectionism. It's not ever trying to do good for people. It's only trying to allow or allowing greed and a lack of ethics to dictate policy. And that's why we have all of this prohibition around cannabis and stigmatization of people who use and grow cannabis. All of that is just a huge campaign, only a result of cannabis being a threat to the bottom line profits of some other people and things that they want to do, and of course the racist issues that go in there as well. There's reasons for cannabis prohibition. None of them are good. There's reasons for cannabis being supplemented and encouraged, and all of them are pretty apparent for anybody who wants to look for it. So have a look for these things and get educated yourself on it, and you'll probably be as appalled as I was when I found out the real truth about it, and maybe you'll do something about it. Maybe you'll even do what I did, which is to quit my job and decide that until it gets solved, I'm going to continue to dedicate every day of my life to trying to solve this issue, because it's really costing us so much and hurting so many people, and it is so unbelievably wrong. And I don't want to live in a world that's so unbelievably wrong. It just makes me angry. It makes me frustrated. I don't like things that are so unreasonable, and I just can't stand by and let it happen. And that's why I'm doing what I'm doing. And if you look into it, maybe you'll be inspired to do similar things, because this is one of the biggest issues in our world right now. And really what it is the issue of freedom at its very core, and at the issue of government corruption, because that's the whole thing that's embodying all of this. This is the quest for freedom. This is about corporate or government corruption preventing that, and this is the big example of how that's all going on. So I think I've said enough for this week. I hope you all tune in next week. I hope you all go about your lives being as kind as you can to yourselves and other people. Find ways to hug, maybe. without spreading the virus. That's a whole other topic. But no matter what you do, while you're trying to change the world, have as much fun as you can.